Hey guys, I'm joined by my friend Jeremy, and we're reviewing the 1988 Italian horror film Nosferatu in Venice, also known as Vampire in Venice, or Vampires in Venice, or Prince of the Night, I think is another one of the alternate titles. Now, this was directed by, how do you say the director's name? Augusto,
I think it's Augusto Caminito.
Now, the film acts as sort of a pseudo-sequel to Werner Herzog's 1979 film Nosferatu the Vampyre, which was a remake of the 1922 film Nosferatu, which is the oldest surviving adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula. From what I understand, this was originally going to be more of a straight sequel to Werner Herzog's Nosferatu, but I know this movie had like a lot of production problems. Which you could kind of tell while watching the fucking movie, if we're being honest.
Yeah, the plot was kind of hard to follow, that's first and foremost. Also, Klaus Kinski caused numerous problems on set. The first being that he refused to go through the long hours in makeup again to recreate the look that is associated with Nosferatu. He refused to shave his head again. And he refused to just sit there, while they poked and prodded him with all the makeup. Refused to do that. So they bent over backwards for his demand that he not endure that makeup, and we get this new look, which, it's hard to really say this is a sequel to Werner Herzog's Nosferatu.
The only way I could think to tie this at all, continuity-wise, with the first one is maybe this is supposed to be a different vampire.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, like, in the first movie, he's Count Dracula, in this, his name is Nosferatu.
Yeah, it doesn't follow the first one's story at all. I mean, he looks completely different.
Yeah.
His name is different.
Yeah, the only reason I decided to review it as part of this, little series of Nosferatu reviews is one, the name, and like I said, I think it was originally going to be a straight sequel to the 79 Nosferatu. But yeah, this movie, I thought it was visually very interesting, but and I thought it started out really strong, but halfway through I really kind of lost the plot. And
there are reasons for that. Number one, apparently Klaus Kinski caused so much trouble that the director wasn't able to shoot the entire script. So he had to cut out various portions of the movie and just use whatever shot footage he had. Augusto Caminito wasn't even the first director. He was originally supposed to only be the producer and the writer, but other directors he hired quit. It was initially to be directed by Maurizio Lucchetti. He argued with Kinski a lot. It should be noted that Klaus Kinski actually directed some scenes in the movie.
Yeah, I heard that. It also should be noted that he apparently sexually assaulted, one or two of the actresses in this movie?
Yeah, according to IMDb, in 2 vampire attack scenes, star Klaus Kinski sexually assaulted actresses Elvire, Audray, and Barbara De Rossi. According to Luigi Cosi, the script called for Kinski to grab his victim, Elvire Audray, and bite her on the neck. Instead, he charged at her like a wild animal, actually beat her up for real, ripped off all her clothes and underwear, and started biting her right on the vagina. Audray fled the set crying, and Kinski maniacally screamed "bitch" at her as she ran off.
Jesus Christ.
Afterward, Audray understandably refused to do any more scenes with the crazed actor, which may explain why she disappears from the rest of the movie. Kinski also apparently manhandled De Rossi during their nocturnal love sequence and went beyond the call of duty by ripping off her nightgown, fondling her crotch, and then squeezing her breasts very hard.
So the plot of Nosferatu in Venice is it follows a vampire hunter named Professor Paris Catalano who travels to Venice following the trail of a legendary vampire known as Nosferatu, who was last seen in Venice 200 years earlier.
He comes to Venice because Henrietta Canines sent him a letter saying, that she believes Nosferatu is buried deep within her family's
crypt.
Yeah, crypt. And that's why he comes. And they perform a seance to try to locate him, and it resurrects him, apparently. It's like, well, wait a second. If they had just not done that, he wouldn't have been resurrected, and none of this would be happening. This plot doesn't seem very good, does it?
Yeah, it's, and even there's two sisters in the movie, and at first it seems like one of the sisters is the one that Nosferatu is going to be going after, but then he starts going after the other sister. Here's the issue, though. I didn't even fucking realize until halfway through that these characters were even supposed to be sisters. The one sister who the vampire is actually interested in, you get glimpses of her, but, still I'm like, who the fuck is this?
Yeah, it's hard to keep track of all the different characters in this movie. And like I said before, one of the actresses, she refused to do any more scenes with Kinski, so that might be why.
Yeah.
Maybe they decided to change the character that he goes after because of that. I don't really know, but...
Yeah, I also read that basically the entire cast walked off the set of this movie in protest because of Kinski's behavior and refused to come back until he apologized.
That's right.
Whole movie just felt almost like just a fever dream, and sometimes that can work, but here again, the production problems of the film fucking show on screen.
Yes.
I will say this, I didn't necessarily hate the film, but again, I kind of lost interest halfway through it.
Yeah, I would say the same.
Now, besides Klaus Kinski, the film also has Donald Pleasence as a priest, and I love Donald Pleasence, but his character is so forgettable that I honestly almost forgot that he was even in this movie. And then you have Christopher Plummer playing, who's ostensibly the main character, Professor Paris Catalano, who is sort of the Van Helsing stand-in of the movie. What's ironic about that is Christopher Plummer actually would go on to play Van Helsing in Dracula 2000. Why don't you talk about the time you met Christopher Plummer?
Oh, sure, yeah. I met him back in, I think it was June 11th, 2018, at the stage door for The View. Got there first at the barricade, and then other graphers joined me, and we waited, and eventually he arrived, and he came over, and got him to sign 3 photos, one from All the Money in the World, and 2 from the movie that I most know him for, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, and I was also lucky enough to get a photo with him. Unfortunately, after he went inside, these 2 people started verbally harassing me for the next 20 minutes or so because they felt that I had annoyed him on his way in by, I guess, pestering him to take the picture with me or whatnot. And that's why they didn't get what they wanted. The one guy, he said I didn't get an autograph or a photo with him. And the woman, who was the worst of the 2, she got a photo with him and he signed her autograph book, but apparently her photo didn't come out well, and she blamed me for that for some odd and stupid reason. So they proceeded to antagonize me, call me names, and I stood my ground, though, because I still had one other photo I was hoping to get signed on his way out. And it honestly wasn't even about that anymore. It was like, if I left, it'd be like giving them power over me. They'd think, oh, we got to make him leave. It was about standing my ground. I'm not going to be intimidated or bullied. And eventually they stopped, but not before I got some of the harassment on video, which I later decided to post, and my God, it got a lot of attention. All that aside, meeting Christopher Plummer was fantastic. In my photo with him, unfortunately, she photobombed it, but then later I blurred her out. And then later, thanks to the kindness of a stranger, I now have her out of my photo with him completely, which is just fantastic. May Christopher Plummer rest in peace. Oh, and I later got the photo signed by him. I should also mention that.
Yeah, this movie's just a mess. It really is. I actually think, you know what? A movie about the making of this film would actually be a lot more fascinating than the movie itself. Because,
agree.
like, the production of this film, like, is really interesting to read about. But I really have nothing else to say about Nosferatu in Venice. I'm not even sure if I'm ever going to watch it again. Again, I didn't hate it, but it was a mess. The movie was a pure mess.
It was just too difficult to follow without looking on Wikipedia, and quite frankly, it was kind of boring.
Yeah. So yeah, that wraps up our review. My next movie review, since I've been reviewing films that are loosely tied in with Nosferatu, my next movie review is going to be on the 2000 film Shadow of the Vampire, which I don't know if you saw that or if you want to contribute. All right, if you want to contribute a little something for that, you can.
All right.
All right. See you later.